Hey everyone, and welcome back to Rudy's 1/6 World for another installment in our new figure showcase series. And today's new arrival is Commander Chakotay from Star Trek Voyager, produced by EXO-6. And I'll start by saying I'm very excited to get this figure in my collection. I also do have 7 of 9 on order, and even though she was released, I made the mistake of ordering from Sideshow instead of direct from EXO-6. So I just got my delay notification, which is a shame, but regardless, we're here for Chakotay. As I've mentioned in the past, sometimes we collect figures because they're just a cool piece, and sometimes we collect figures because of the property they're based on, and the character we're getting. For me, even without looking at the figure, the chance to have Commander Chakotay in the collection was just something I never expected. So in case you couldn't tell, I'm a big fan of Chakotay. Although I think he's one of the less well-regarded executive officers from the Trek universe, for me he's actually one of my favorite characters. I mean, everyone seems to gravitate towards Riker and Major Kira from DS9, but I thought Chakotay was one of the most supportive execs in any of the shows. Although I do feel like at times he got the short end of the stick. There were a few episodes where Janeway relieved him of command because he disagreed with the decision she was making, which seems strange considering he really always did seem to have her back. And then I do feel like the writer squandered the potential of his story with him being a former Maquis captain, as well as the integration of the crews. He seemed to fall in line really easily, and I feel like there could have been more friction there and more of a dramatic story. But to me, that was overshadowed by the great episodes he was in, where he has to save the crew from the alien race that puts them to sleep, for example, using his dream techniques. And also, let's be honest, he had an amazing chemistry with Janeway. I know by the end of the series they were pushing him and Seven as a couple, but I think it should have been him and Janeway. There's that episode where they're left behind on a planet because they have some disease that can't be cured, and Tuvok takes charge, and the chemistry between the two of them, man, if you need convincing, rewatch that episode, because I think that cemented the two of them as some potential. But I do appreciate that Chakotay respected Janeway's position as a captain and didn't pursue that. So, as you can tell, and as maybe is an unfortunate part of my videos, I do have a lot of opinions on the source material. Usually positive, or I wouldn't buy the figures. But we are here to look at the figure itself, so let's take a look at the package here. And he is one of the more basic figures, coming with just a few spare hands, the tricorder, the pad, and the phaser. I do think he could have included some other things to set him apart, maybe his medicine bag, but beyond that, I'm not sure what else he could have included. And of course, he does come with the standard display stand that can be converted into a combined transporter pad. Although I will note the figure doesn't really need it since it's fairly stable by itself. So with that in mind, let's take a quick look at the accessories. And if you've seen any of the EXO-6 figure reviews I've done in the past, this will be a very similar approach. So feel free to jump ahead. And for this one, I'm just going to group all the main accessories together since it'll be just much quicker to review. And he comes with a few standard parts, namely you get the phaser with the magnetic holster, the tricorder also with the holster, and then he comes with the pad, which is very specific to Voyager, including some nice stickers on the screen showing a Borg cube, and that is it. Next up, just a series of interchangeable hands designed to hold the accessories. And as we've noted before with the other releases, there's a really nice paint app to these, giving them a very real feeling skin tone and texture. Only negative here, pegs. We don't get any extras, and I have reached out to EXO-6 for replacements in the past, and their customer service, at least through their website, isn't the best. But it's nice to have those just in case something happens. So now, switching to the figure, I do think EXO-6 continues to improve, and that's evident with the sculpts. This is another case where once you have the figure in hand, the sculpt looks to be much better than the one from the preview pics, which is interesting since normally you're just hoping that the figures are close to what we saw. So this, I think, looks very much like Commander Chakotay. Is it perfect? Not exactly, but it's very good. I wouldn't necessarily compare these to Hot Toys or even Damn Toys, but they're very solid overall. I think what always betrays the sculpts is the paintwork. Although here there's a lot of great detail on the face, showing the wrinkles, and even the paintwork on his face tattoo is really well done. I also like the improvement on the eyes. Definitely getting closer to the realism some of the other players in the market achieve. Only issue, and I had the same thing with Tuvok, I think one of the eyes is slightly off. I feel like EXO-6 needs to just improve on that QA/QC for the eyes a little bit more. Also, do note that I do have this under harsher white light, so some of the details may be getting washed out. Now looking at the jumpsuit, this is where EXO-6 continues to shine. From the very small provisional commander badge on his neck to the Starfleet Delta comm on his chest. They're nicely created small pieces, and I've seen suits before with screen printed details in lieu of pins, and it does cheapen the look. So I give a lot of credit to EXO-6 for recreating these ridiculously small pieces in such a great way, since it really does bring the uniform to life and adds to that realism. Everything else here is simple, but really well done. Tailoring continues to be on point, and the material selection here is excellent as well. Instead of being a simple fabric, there is some texture to the material that gives it just a little bit more. And the way the uniform fits on the figure's body is top notch. I've seen decent figures just destroyed by poor fitting clothing, so I love that EXO-6 really takes care in making sure the pieces look authentic and fit well on the figure. One other small detail that I love that EXO-6 picked up is in the zipper at the figure's collar. In the show, Chakotay, B'Elanna, and Harry all have more open collars where they don't fully zip up the suit. Tuvok, being the Vulcan that he is, has a very properly fitted suit. So does the Doctor, and I think EXO-6 paid attention to that and is actually giving us those slightly variable details. So again, while there are things EXO-6 needs to improve on, you have to give them credit for everything they get right, which is a lot. I also do have to commend them on the bodies they've used. These are highly posable with double jointed elbows and double jointed knees and a great range of overall motion. And sometimes I do wish other companies would follow suit, because EXO-6 is giving us a big opportunity to pose. Although as a bridge crew, you wouldn't necessarily expect Chakotay to be posed in the most dynamic way, but the option's still there, so I appreciate that. Also, I do like that EXO-6 is using different bodies. Chakotay is very much on par height-wise with Tuvok. I think the characters are both listed as being in the 6'2" and 6'3" range, although the actors portraying them are both around 5'11". So at least when you put the figures together, you get that variation in height, especially when compared with Janeway. But even Tuvok does stand just a smidge taller, so again, I appreciate those details. One of the other things I really like about the figure are the pegs. I think at this point you all know I have a never-ending battle with pegs and hands, and I've gotten myself in trouble in the past. With both the EXO-6 Janeway and Michael Burnham, the pegs feel a little less stable and more delicate, and they're just connected via a small attachment, and it just feels like a break waiting to happen. Chakotay has some nice sturdy pegs, and at no point during the hand swapping or posing did I feel like I was in danger of breaking those, so that's one less concern. And I think the final note with this figure and the rest of the Voyager crew, they may not seem like the most exciting figures. Even the Discovery ones with the phaser rifles and the more action-oriented show might seem a little more dynamic, but don't sleep on these. Getting these subtle poses with the hands grabbing the phaser, just holding the tricorder, that was actually a lot of fun, and it wasn't hard, which sometimes can be a challenge with the figures. Also, if you look at the cost of these on the secondary market, they're just going up and up. The Doctor, for example, who was available for about the same cost as Chakotay at $170, is now upwards of $300, and the 7 of 9 I've seen going for almost $400. And again, I do have her on pre-order, and I can't wait to get her because the Voyager crew is really coming to life and looking great together. Plus, Nanjim has already posted some darkened pictures teasing Harry, B'Elanna, and Tom, so I'm looking forward to completing the crew. Still a little on the fence when it comes to Neelix, but that'll be a game time decision. And one thing I think you'll notice with the group shot I have, every figure has improved dramatically. If you look at Janeway, Tuvok was a huge step forward in terms of the paintwork on the sculpt. Now looking at Chakotay, I would say the paint apps on his face are a bigger jump. So I'm excited for what's to come from EXO-6, and I'm very excited to have Chakotay in the collection, and for that cheap cost too. I think what we're getting here is really incredible, and I think Star Trek fans have a lot to look forward to. I think as far as first officers, he did what needed to be done, and while I do think he got the short end of the stick oftentimes, he always had Janeway's back and supported her, even when she was going through dark moments, and should have potentially been relieved of duty. So I think he's a great character, and I'm happy to call him one of my favorites. So that was a quick look at Commander Chakotay in 6-scale figure format from EXO-6. Let me know your thoughts on this one, and as always, thanks for watching, and if you are enjoying the content, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing, and we'll touch base on the next video.